So you're planning to buy, sell, or feed hay to livestock. How do you know the actual quality of that hay bale? Let's talk about it. Howdy, I'm Dr. Jacquelyn Prestegaard. I'm an Extension Livestock Sustainability Specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. Today we're going to walk through how to sample hay, whether it's round bales or square bales, and talk a little bit more about why you should sample hay. Whether you're buying or selling hay, it's good to know what the nutrient quality of that hay is. You can visually assess hay and kind of tell the difference in nutritive quality. Like, for example, here we have a fairly freshly baled round of coastal Bermuda grass. And over here, you can tell that this is a much lower quality round bale of a hybrid of sorghum Sudan. And you would probably say to yourself, this one doesn't have as high of a feeding value for livestock as the coastal Bermuda grass. But what is the exact difference? If I wanted to know how much nutrition this bale is going to provide my animals versus Sudan bale, I want to know how much protein, how much fiber, how much energy one bale is going to be giving to my livestock versus the other. So when should you actually sample your hay? I don't recommend sampling right after harvest. You want to sample as close to when that hay is actually fed to your livestock as possible. Which hay bales should you sample? How many should you sample? There are a lot of different opinions on how many to sample. Generally, a good rule of thumb is between 5 to 10% of a lot of hay is how much you should sample. What do I mean by a lot of hay? You want to sample bales that are harvested around the same time and definitely are from the same field and are of the same variety or species of hay. You don't want to mix fields or cuttings together in your sample. The only way to truly know the quality of your hay is to test it. And today we're going to walk through the steps of how to test hay with a forage probe. Here's what you're going to need. First, a drill. And there are hay probes out there that are hand powered. I just prefer to use a drill probe. And then the probe itself, you can get one of these. You can buy one for yourself if you'd like, but they are a little expensive. Most county extension offices will have these available for you to either borrow or lease. These forage probes come with a dowel rod, which will help you remove the sample after you take the core. I either like to have an extra drill on hand or just extra drill batteries, permanent marker to label your samples, and a bucket. You're also going to want a bag to put your hay sample into after you've mixed it. I prefer plastic, but you can use paper as well. Plastic is better if you plan to send this off for analysis, and because it retains all of the moisture from the sample you just took. Why should you use a probe versus just taking a grab sample? Because if you try to take hay, a hay sample off of the top of the bale, you're not getting actually into the bale to get a representative sample of what the animals would actually be eating. Whereas a core sampler, we're actually going to be going into the center of either our round bales or our square bales, and you can see that we're going to get a much more representative sample. Additionally, when this core sampler is going into the bale, it's also grinding the forage as well. If you just pull a grab sample, these are pretty thick pieces of forage, and if you send this off for analysis like this, the lab might charge you an extra fee to grind it. Some folks will say if there's some weathering on the outside of this bale, to remove it first. It's not my preference to do that because, again, the cows will eat some of that weathered part of the bale, and I want to know what the cows are eating. And so I will leave on the weathered part of the bale unless you plan to remove that part before the animals consume it. So we're going to go ahead and take a core sample of this coastal Bermuda round bale. With round bales, you always want to take a sample from the side of the bale and never the face. So we're going to go ahead and start drilling into this round. And we have our core. You want to make sure that when you're using this type of probe that the drill is moving clockwise, otherwise it'll unscrew itself while you're trying to get your sample. And just a disclaimer, if you're sampling a lot of bales, this part can get really hot, so just be careful. Okay, so we have our dowel rod that comes with the sampler, and we're just inserting this into the bit side, and you can see our nice fine sample coming out of there. Once you've gone through and sampled your 5 to 10% of your lot, add them to the bucket as you go. It doesn't have to be a big one like this, but that way you can mix up your finely chopped hay samples that represent your lot, and this is what you're going to be sending off for analysis. So the reason that I'm standing up here and this square bale is on its side in this particular way is because of the way that we would need to sample square bales. Square bales might be in a barn already where you could just go into the face of the square head on. If you go in like this, you're only going to get a representation of one flake of hay. But if you go in this way, you're getting a better representation of most of that bale of hay. And so when we sample square bales, we want to go in from the face like this. And I'm just standing up here for leverage, but same process. And there you have your core. You really only need about half a pound of forage or about 2 pints or so to send off to the lab. You don't need to fill this all the way up, but you want to make sure that you're sending off enough. Now, before you put your sample into the bag, you want to label it. And there's a few things that you want to put on the label, and this is for both yourself and for the lab analysis. So your name, so that they can tie that back to your account, the date that you sampled the hay, the lot of the hay. So I have on here lot 1, and I like to also put where the hay came from. So the south field is where this hay was harvested. I also like to put on it where the hay is stored. So I put hay shed on here, and then finally, what type of hay is it? Coastal. I prefer to use plastic bags when sending these off for analysis, and I even like to freeze them before I send them because I want that sample to be as close to what it was when it came out of the hay bale when I send it off, when the lab is actually analyzing it. You can use paper bags if you are going to do your own, say, dry matter on the farm, but these are quite hard to mail. They're bulky, and they can accumulate moisture and mold more quickly. The other thing to mention about mailing these off for analysis, don't just set this on the dash of your truck or on your kitchen table for a couple weeks before sending it off. Send it off as soon as you are able to the lab. I even like to overnight them just to make sure that, remember, you're getting your money's worth for the analysis. When you send samples off to the lab, what exactly should you be getting back from them? Most labs have a general type of analysis that you can pick from, but you want to make sure that you're definitely getting dry matter, crude protein, fiber in the form of NDF, which is neutral detergent fiber, and ADF, which is acid detergent fiber. Most labs will also give you an energy estimate as well, but it's important to note that beyond the nutrients of protein, fiber, and the dry matter content and the mineral content, the energy values that you should be requesting are going to depend on the type of animal that is going to be consuming the feed. So work with the lab, or if you're not sure, work with your local extension office to figure out what type of analysis to request. I hope this video helped you better understand how to take a hay sample so that you can have more confidence in the quality of your hay, whether you're planning on selling it or feeding it to livestock. Thanks for watching, and remember, test, don't guess. You can find more resources on this at animalscience.tamu.edu.